I want the truth and nothing but the truth.
What's up, everybody? It's your lawyer, Godot. Now, today's video is going to be pretty chill, especially in terms of editing. It's just going to be me talking about the death battle like matchup ideas when it comes to JoJo, at least the ones that I like the most. Now, if I don't mention yours, like just drop yours down below, just because it'd be nice to see what you guys got in store for me, right? Like, especially drop them connections too. And yeah, I figured that, you know, I think death battle when it comes to JoJo, they need a lawyer, so that's why this video's be made. I gotta rep JoJo real quick. Okay, but seriously though, let's get to these matchups that I picked out. That'd be pretty dope. Okay. Now, if Jonathan were to get a run back, I would prefer to be Jonathan Joestar versus Simon Belmont, JoJo versus Castlevania. The connections are both heroes storm Dracula's castle, or Dio's castle, right? Fighting hordes of undead. When they reach the upper, most tower, they meet one another due to a powerful illusion. They both believe the other to be their enemy. Both vampire slayers are at the power level they had when fighting their respective vampire. Jonathan when he fought Dio in his castle, and Simon at the end of Super Castlevania 4. Also, just letting you guys know with these connections, I'm just at least grabbing the best ones from either Reddit or just some forum, right? I want the absolute best connections to give you for these, okay, that at least I found or stumbled upon. But this matchup would be pretty dope for Jonathan Joestar to return in. Now, you ask who wins, Jobber? Honestly, I'm not too sure on who wins this fight. I've seen a glimpse of some Castlevania scaling, and I'm probably siding with Simon Belmont on this one. I know that the Castlevania scaling can go pretty crazy. I mean, especially bro, Death Battle's got what was it? Gandorf getting stomped by Dracula. I don't know. And Simon Belmont's fighting that guy. I don't know. But yeah, I think I probably lean towards Simon Belmont winning that encounter with Jonathan Joestar and Death Battle. Now, next one, Dio versus Minzon, JoJo versus Demon Slayer. Yep. All right. So keep in mind, when I say Dio versus Minzon, I mean part 1 Dio, not part 3, to make this way more interesting. So the connections between Dio and Minzon are that they are both the rulers of a species that came out in the night and have a weakness to sunlight. Demons and vampires both have battled a powerful human who uses the power of sunlight, in which they barely managed to escape alive. As a result of this, both wanted to kill their descendants before they could get in their way. Gyro and Tanjiro both turned themselves into the beasts that they controlled to escape from death. Dio turned himself into a vampire before he was shot, and Minzon turned himself into a demon so he wouldn't die from an illness. So I like this matchup. I really do. I think it'd be really good Death Battle to see, especially if it's just part 1 Dio. Part 1 Dio up against Minzon. And also, I mean, it makes sense. Jonathan fought Tanjiro. Now we get part 1 Dio fighting Minzon. It just writes itself. As for who wins this battle, honestly, Dio should stomp. This battle should pretty much be this should be no different than, Jonathan versus Tanjiro. But it'd still be a very entertaining battle. I'd be down for it, okay? Actually, there's another part 1 Dio battle. He was on part 1 Dio against Shin from Fist of North Star, but yeah, it just doesn't really work. There's a lot of connections, but then again, you have to use part 3. It's nah, let's just stick with Dio versus Minzon. I like this one better. Now, Joseph Joestar versus Shikamaru Nara. I probably said that wrong. Now, this is JoJo versus Naruto. Alright. Here's the connections. Initially, lazy geniuses who inherited a power from their bloodlines, one being based on shadows, i.e. Shikamaru's shadow, imitation, technique, and the other on light, Joseph's Hama, right? Which they initially never developed past the basic level and just got by using their wits and talents to outplay enemies. Ultimately, a mentor/father figure in their lives, Asuma and Speedwagon respectively, take a critical injury that makes them die, at least seemingly. This loss acts as a catalyst that ultimately forces them to gently hone their abilities to become incredibly skilled and incredibly intelligent fighters who thrive on using their environments to outplay opponents. Now, my thoughts on this matchup is fucking dope. Come on. This is the Joseph Joestar matchup. Now, I have scoured, okay? There is so many Joseph Joestar matchups that I had to pick from, because I don't know. A lot of people really like JoJoJo. He has like 50 matchups. It's crazy. But I personally think that this is the best one. Like, it goes like for both of these characters. I would like to see these characters fight. And it's more so plays on like, okay, this battle kind of comes down to who's going to outsmart the other, right? Who's going to do it like first? Who's going to like hit them with the whole slam dunk like, this, right? You know what I'm saying? Also, my thoughts on who wins this matchup. Personally, at least so far, like unless any more evidence presented, right? I think like JoJoJo should be safely at least slightly smarter than Shikamaru, and he should be like at least far faster. And when it comes to strength or whatever, it doesn't really matter because he like has durability negation if he hits with Haman. So yeah, that's at least my take on it. I think it'd be a pretty nice matchup. Very, I guess, intellectual matchup. Guys trying to outplay each other via smarts, right? Now, Ultimate Cars versus Miriam. JoJo versus Hunter x Hunter. The connections are, it's really just simple. Ultimate life forms that wanted to take over the world. Yeah. But it's literally the most popular Ultimate Cars matchup, right? And it's with Miriam. I remember this was like heavily debated back then. But a lot of things have just changed with, like, you know, at least the scale meta with both series. And as far as I know, in my opinion, from what I've seen from like Hunter x Hunter, especially when I hang out with some Hunter x Hunter scalers and stuff, like, it seems just that Ultimate Cars is just gonna clap, like, unironically. But that's like my take so far. I'm not sure what Death Battle is gonna do with that exact matchup or whatever, but it'll be definitely pretty cool to see, especially them mimicking each other or whatever. Now, next one. Jotaro Kujo versus Aoi Toto. JoJo versus Jujutsu Kaisen. Okay. Now, Jotaro Kujo versus Aoi Toto. JoJo versus JJK. Two delinquents with supernatural powers, frightening levels of strength, and an ability to let them get to a different place in an instant. Jotaro's Time Stop and Toto's Boogie Woogie. Despite being delinquents, they are into unfitting things, like Jotaro likes marine biology and Toto is into pop idols. And both have a knack for finding their opponent's weaknesses. Both have distinct markings on them. Jotaro's, like, you know, star birthmark, and Toto's eye scar. Now, I like this fight. It's a good fight if Jotaro does return back onto Death Battle, right, to fight, like, let's say, just a new opponent from the series, right? And this one's a pretty much gonna be a stomp. Jotaro's gonna stomp. I'm not gonna sugarcoat. He's gonna stomp Toto. It's gonna be pretty bad, but hey, it'll be a pretty good fight to see, like, animation wise. Like, I guess at least Jotaro's getting a W. Like, last time he's here, he took an L to Kenshiro, right? He needs to get his rep back up. Alright, next fight. Noriaki Kakyoin versus Pyro Nikos. JoJo versus Ruby. Connections are, they have a similar color motif in design of red and green with some yellow mixed in. They both have dealt with loneliness, but in slightly different aspects. Pyro was renowned as perfect and was put on a pedestal, making it near impossible for her to make actual connections and friendships. Kakyoin spent nearly his entire life thinking he was the only one who had a stand, and with none of his friends in his entire childhood having one, he spent his life thinking, well, bro, I'm like the only one here, right? So he just started distancing himself from his friends. They were both eventually introduced to people who helped them make actual connections and save them from their loneliness. Especially, what was it, the Ruby team and the Joestar group. Both were also killed by major antagonists Cinder and Dio. In turn, their sacrifice, allowed the heroes to gain the upper hand on the villain. Ruby using her silver eyes for the first time, and Josu relaying the world's ability to Jotaro, who also in turn would gain the ability as well. And to an extent, they both have abilities that allow for both close and long-range combat. Now, this one is, I actually would consider this a legacy matchup, but this one's really popular. I remember it being really popular back in the day, and I don't think the consensus has changed that Kakyoin should kind of also clap Pyra, but hey, still be a dope battle. Come on, wait. Pyra got done dirty in Ruby. Come on, let's bring her back, please. She got done dirty. We need to see Pyra back. Now, next fight. All right. Polnareff, and I can't believe I'm saying this, versus Puss and Boots. JoJo versus DreamWorks. Okay, I can't believe I said this. I really don't. But this is genuinely the only, I guess, kind of good Polnareff matchup I could find, if I'm being, like, honest. Now, connections are, and surprisingly, these two actually have connections that are pretty good. I can't make this up. Okay, so the connections are, they're both rapier-based swordsmen who were originally enemies to a team involving a man with an aggressive personality on a somewhat comedic character, Jotaro and Joseph, and Shrek and Donkey respectively. Afterwards, they joined the team and helped them on their mission involving a girl. Shrek wants Fiona to love him, and Jotaro and Joseph want to cure Holly from her virus. After helping the protagonist beat this antagonist, the team's goal is achieved. Later on, after 2 parts of their respective series, they're seen in a very unusual state. Polnareff is in a wheelchair, and Puss is fat. After which, they join the protagonists, Shrek and Charna respectively, to defeat a man who can mess with time. They also both hold a grudge against someone who ruined their family life. Polnareff seeks revenge on Jay Guile for murdering his sister, and Puss wanted revenge on Humpty Dumpty for forcing Puss to leave San Ricardo and his adopted mother. Holy moly, how am I reading this all? Okay, there's still more. They also hold a part of their appearance in high regard, Polnareff hair and Puss's boots. Both are also somewhat flirtatious. Both are renowned for their speed in combat and use it to get around opponents who are normally physically stronger than them. Both let a friend get quote-unquote killed until said friend is revealed to be alive soon after. Abdul and Humpty. Both are considered one of, if not the best characters in their respective stories, so much so that they appeared in later narratives due to their popularity. Okay, my thoughts on this matchup? I don't know who wins. I probably side with Polnareff, but something tells me that Puss and Boots has got some pretty wild stuff in DreamWorks, maybe. I wouldn't doubt it. I think this is definitely a very, very comedic matchup. That's what I think. Alright, next one. Heaven Ascension Dio versus Infinity Ultron. JoJo versus Marvel or MCU What If. Okay, come on, this is the matchup. Y'all expected to see this. Now, if Part 3 Dio were to come back, it has to be Heaven Ascension Dio. Please, like, this is the matchup right here, okay? Now, here are these connections, right? Both are alternate versions of egotistical, theatrical villains with god complexes. These versions of the villains succeed where their main counterpart failed, managing to kill the team of heroes trying to stop them from completing their goal, the Avengers and Star Crusaders. They then collect a set of items, the Infinity Stones and the Souls of 36 Sinners, which they get thanks to a purple villain of a future storyline that normally wields his power, Thanos Tenpuchi. These items transform the villain, giving them the godlike ability to overwrite reality. This ability gives them many powers, such as changing the world to what they deem fit, increase their own strength, resurrect the dead, remove people from existence, yada yada yada. Okay, so they become aware of other universes thanks to a strange visitor, the Watcher, and Valentine. They see this as an opportunity to expand their conquest in the entire multiverse. The visitor is horrified by this, same with Valentine, right? They get the fuck out of there and like, yo, main heroes, do something about it. And then they eventually get defeated, right? Like, by Guardians of the Multiverse and Joestar family across the multiverse. So, yeah. This matchup is pretty fucking dope, okay? Like, not much said here. I think for this fight, what I would personally like to see, especially in terms of animation, I could just imagine that while Heaven Ascension Dio is fighting Infinity Ultron summons his army, and then Dio's like, bet, and then he just summons the army of just like Joestars and like Joestar villains that he's possessing, right? That would be dope. Like a Joestar army, or yeah, Joestar army, Joestar, Jofo, whatever, up against the Infinity Ultron army. That'd be awesome. Now, as for who wins this fight, and for me personally, it could go either way. Most people are leaning for Infinity Ultron, but I think it could go either way, in my opinion, especially when I look at Heaven Ascension Dio, right? Now, next one. Koichi versus Uraka. JoJo versus My Hero Academia. The connections are two bright-eyed, innocent youths who have the power to control gravity. Well, yeah, that's literally it. That's all their connections. I know this is a very popular matchup for both of these characters. And I guess it's the one I like the most. So here it is. In terms of who wins this battle, I'd say, I'm just kidding. It's Koichi. Koichi's winning this battle. I don't know what Uraka's gonna do. I don't know what she's gonna do, but it'd be a pretty dope animation and see those characters interact. Now, next matchup. Okuyasu Nijimura versus Kuwabara. JoJo versus Yu Hakusho. Let's go. Connections. Delinquents who were introduced as antagonistic towards the main protagonist, Josuke and Yusuke respectively, before becoming one of their best friends. They wield spiritual powers, stands in spiritual energy, primarily fight in close quarters combat, and possess the power to damage space itself and harm just about anything. The Hand's Eraser and Korbar's Dimension Sword. They are not particularly smart, but their hearts in the right place and never give up even against seemingly insurmountable odds. While they have simple powers, they've shown great ingenuity when it really counts. Now, this matchup is so fucking based. I love it, okay? I hope this happens. This would be such a good fight to see on just that battle. Their connections are great in my opinion. Now, as for who wins this battle, it mostly depends on just how competent you think Okuyasu is. How competent do you think he is? Because at least from what I've seen, and I've read all, I've watched all of Yu Hakusho, right? And I've seen a lot of manga panels, some scale for that too. And I get the general gist of how fast and strong those characters are. But it's Okuyasu's kind of got the whole speed thing going on. He's definitely faster than Korbar. And what was it? The whole Hand's Erasure should just cancel out on the whole Dimension Sword, so that they should be equal in that range. So when I say it depends on how competent Okuyasu is, it really depends. Okay, is Okuyasu really gonna let himself get hit by Kuwabara? Because if he gets hit, not just by the Dimension Sword, but just by Kuwabara's fist himself, he's gonna die. And also is he gonna really let himself get hit by the Dimension Sword, or how's he gonna use his hand? Is he gonna use the hand to scrape him away, or come on? It all depends on how competent you think Okuyasu is. I think he's at least a lot more competent than people think he is, because for some reason these people hate Okuyasu and think he's I don't know, the worst of the stand, even though there's Mista, but just saying. Alright, Josuke Higashikata versus Yang Xiaolong. JoJo versus Ruby. Now the connections are, they're seemingly friendly teenagers who fight mainly using their fists. Their most famous attribute is that they will punch anyone and slash for anything that does anything to their hair, which they value greatly. Josuke whenever someone insults his hairstyle, and Yang whenever someone touches, rips, cuts even a small portion of her hair, with the exception of Ruby. They also had a parent of theirs who weren't part of their childhood a lot until much later, Joseph Joestar / Raven Bronwyn, who also happened to be related to a much more serious and seasoned fighter with black hair and a no messing around attitude in combat, Jojo Kujo and Crow. They also have a unique power tailored to them which makes them stronger and even protects them in battle. Josuke's stand, Crazy Diamond, its ability Restoration, Yang's aura, and her semblance Burn. Now, hot take, this matchup is based. I don't want Josuke versus Yuna Akami. I think that matchup is just dumb. I get it, okay, Persona in JoJo's, they're so similar, I get it, but come on, man. Use just on a different level. 3 different levels. It's just not really a fight. Everyone agrees that Josuke gets stomped in that fight. And then with Yang, right, her, I guess, quote-unquote best matchup or whatever is the whole Yang versus Bakugo, and everyone's like, bro, it's a stomp. What's Yang gonna do to Bakugo? So I think this is a pretty good middle ground. Okay, this fight should be close. Okay, at least for these two characters, right? At least a more fair matchup. Now, who wins this? From what I've seen from Ruby scaling, I don't even think they get past like faster than light or something like that, and I think they don't get past like town level. So it looks like Josuke should clap. At least that's my take, right? I don't know. Like, correct me down below with some crazy Ruby scaling, right? But it seems Josuke should win this pretty safely, and it'd be a pretty entertaining fight to see. Next fight, Kira versus Adachi. JoJo versus Persona. Okay, this had to come out eventually because I just talked about it earlier, but essentially, like I said earlier, JoJo and Persona are very similar. These two characters are extremely similar. Serial killers who terrorize small Japanese towns with a series of murders, which they commit using supernatural abilities to remain undetected. Both come from the fourth installments of their series, where people use the summon manifestations of their souls to fight, stands personas. Both unexpectedly gained their abilities, which would end up being the perfect fit for their killings. They both kill for selfish reasons, benefiting no one but themselves. They would both end up being defeated by groups consisting mostly of local teenagers who all happen to have access to their own summoned souls manifestations. Both of them retain the persona of being incredibly unassuming before their true intents are revealed and they can show their true colors. Now, thoughts on this matchup? Obviously, it's a great matchup. I think it definitely deserves the hype. Now, who wins? And this is my problem with JoJo versus Persona matchups. Like Adachi. Every time. Like, if you guys ask me like a JoJo versus Persona matchup, I'm always going to say Persona. That verse is just JoJo, but like on crack. Like, the scaling's busted. Like, what's Kira gonna do to Adachi? And people are like, well, you could just... That's the one thing about this fight that people talk about. That makes it a conversation, is that maybe Kira... The only thing Kira can do to win is just touch him and blow him up, right? Like, durability negation. But the problem is, he has to get to him. Adachi's definitely gonna be too fast. He's gonna be too fast, too strong, has some dumbass hacks. Like, bro, someone told me like this guy has like some death manipulation hacks. Like, bro, it's like just this guy's aura just makes you want to kill yourself or something. It's some crazy stuff. I don't know, man. Like, he's like, I guess if I were to say, oh, I'm rooting for Kira, but I'm betting Adachi, right? I guess. But yeah, generally, JoJo versus Persona matchups, Persona always usually just wins, just stomps JoJo matchups, unfortunately. Now, next one. This one's a bit of a weird one, right? I figured I'd bring this up. This is really weird. I might have to do some research into this one. It's Rohan versus Rod Serling. JoJo versus the Twilight Zone. Connections are reality warping authors, surrogates who narrate stories of bizarre, supernatural phenomena which serve as lessons on the folly of man. Pretty weird connection. I don't know how this battle will go out at all. I guess I can see a framework, but I don't see the picture, if that makes sense. I need to look more into Rod's Serling for me to get this matchup fully. Next one, big controversial take. Giorno versus Alucard. JoJo versus Castlevania. See how the twist I did there? Anyways, connections are two sons from evil vampires who use their powers for good, and both these characters are one of the strongest characters in the verse. Boom. And I think I'd like this matchup a lot. And before you people go in the comments, be like, what about the other? Yes, okay, alright, fine. Giorno versus Joker. Yes. It's the exact same, connection, framework as, the whole Kira versus Adachi thing. JoJo and Persona being very, very similar. Yes, I get it. Everyone gets it. Anyways, back to the original conversation. Anyways, Giorno versus Alucard. I think this matchup would be pretty good. It's kind of like, I guess more fair than Giorno versus Joker. Because, Alucard should win this. Because he's got crazy hacks. I know Castlevania's got busted stuff going on. It's especially in terms of scaling, too. So, and also, I think it'd be pretty funny to make the joke of hey, it's kind of funny. Dio went up against Alucard. Now, Dio's son, Giorno, goes up against Alucard, right? Pretty funny that this happened twice, right? I mean, it's from different series, but you get the gist. But I think that'd be pretty darn cool to see. And I like the themes that would go on in that battle. Now, next one. Bruno Bucciolati versus Satsuki. I probably butchered that. I'm just gonna say that Satsuki. Okay, y'all know what I'm talking about. JoJo versus Kill la Kill. Alright, so connections are leaders of a powerful group of 4 in large, prominent organizations. Bruno only led 4 people before, Giorno and Trish came along. Satsuki leads Elite 4. All of their respective members have supernatural abilities. Neither had much of a choice in joining the organization. Bruno wants protection from, the gangsters he killed, which the police couldn't provide. Satsuki and Ragyo's daughter, born into a position, both hide their resentment of their respective organizations for years. Crappy childhoods caused them to have steadfast beliefs, ambition, and resolve. At a very young age, their respective fathers were killed. This was indirectly caused by their future bosses. Both of them started as enemies to the protagonist, but ended up as allies. At the halfway point of their series, they betrayed their masters because they despised said masters' corruption and evil. They fought with their bosses and suffered an embarrassing, bloody defeat. Afterwards, their team's priority became killing their boss. White/blue/gold color scheme. Satsuki has the same haircut as Bruno at the end of Kill la Kill. They have 2 weird hair clipping things for some reason, and both of their outfits are, very revealing of their cleavage. I don't know why that's a connection, but it is. They are humans who use beings with supernatural abilities to fight and enhance their abilities. Gengetsu and Sticky Fingers. Both stands and Kamui originate from a meteor. Gengetsu and Sticky Fingers have the appearances and abilities that involve, clothing, right? Like Gengetsu? I'm butchering that, man. It's a sentient, sailor suit that can shapeshift. Sticky Fingers gives Bruno the surprisingly versatile power over, zippers and over its body, right? And both are from over the top anime. Now, this, once again, based matchup. I want to see this. This one has perfect connections, and also kind of a legacy matchup. I've seen this stuff floating around for a while, and I've always liked it, right? Plus, it's one of those fights where that JoJo character, man, is you should win, but wow, I can't believe you won. Which is Bruno having a speed and hacks advantage. This character is up against way tougher, way more destructive capability, way more durable, and Bruno's massively faster on light, and hacks of me zipping you into pieces go burr, right? And both are close range fighters, so Satsuki's not gonna try to zone him or something. It's gonna be funny, but I think it's definitely gonna be a pretty fun fight. I'd love to see this one on Death Battle. I definitely would probably try to push for this in the next champion poll if they ever make one. All right, next one, Diablo versus Moon Knight. Ooh, quite the shock. People didn't expect that one. Yes, I got you. Okay. Now, JoJo versus Marvel. Connections. Both are men who have dissociative identity disorder, who to most people in their respective series, they just look absolutely insane or whatever. They'll be doing some interesting things with phones and stuff. And also his eyes literally just changing physical body, morphing, right? I'm pretty sure Moon Knight has some other stuff too, but I don't know too much. I don't do Marvel, right? But both have more regular human personalities who seem to be the original person. Vinegar Doppio and Mark Spector both believe in some form of higher power, fate, and Khonshu to protect them and save them, but to most people they look like they're going on about nonsense. But it turns out these things are actually real forces in the universe. Both of their parents lived in a very messed up situation. Diablo's mother was a prisoner in an all-female prison, and Mark's father, Elias, faced discrimination due to him being a rabbi, which probably led to them having DID. Both also found ancient objects within the desert Diablo found the stand arrows while doing archaeology in the desert, and Mark was fatally wounded near the idol of Khonshu, which they then obtained like spiritual abilities from this. Diablo obtained King Crimson while Mark became a servant of Khonshu. Both later on like found out that they like had a long lost daughter, Trish Una, and Beatrice Alrune, with Diablo actively trying to kill his daughter to kill all traces of his past, while Mark actually wanted to be a good father but couldn't due to his mental illness. As for this fight, shockingly, I think it's pretty darn good. I think it's definitely the best Diablo matchup. I'm not sure about if it's the best Moon Knight matchup, but definitely the best Diablo matchup I've seen personally. I like this matchup a lot. And surprisingly, because I have some Marvels that's, will scale up the Marvelverse, but Diablo actually should win this fight. Surprisingly, like, oh my god, JoJo taking over. What's going on here? Marvel Comics never loses. Like, I don't know. But this would be a pretty cool fight. I'd be genuinely down to see this, Now, if Death Battle gives Moon Knight literally everything, including Mjolnir, then obviously Diablo's losing, but I don't think they will do that. Next fight. Jolene Cujo versus SpiderGwen. JoJo versus Marvel. Connections. They use string as weapon. That's one. 2. Both are also related to bugs. Jolene being based on Butterfly, and SpiderGwen, obviously. And 3, both are framed for their crimes. So, yep, that's 3 connections. I like this matchup. Some people don't like this matchup. Well, because, oh my god, every time JoJo and Spider-Man, right? But I'd be down for this one. Plus, I would like the character banter between these two girls, like Jolene and SpiderGwen. That'd be pretty cool. As far as I'm concerned, SpiderGwen should win this matchup, at least in my opinion. Next one, Jolene Cujo versus Ganta. JoJo versus Dead Man Wonderland. Now this one's been getting a lot more popularity lately. I've seen it a lot. Now the question is, have I seen Dead Man Wonderland? The answer is yes, but I don't remember. I really don't remember. I know I watched Dead Man Wonderland at least 2 or 3 episodes on Adult Swim, way back in the day, but I don't remember anything about it, at all. You could show me a picture of Ganta, I would oh, I know where he is. He's from from that show, I think. Think about it for a second, Dead Man Wonderland. I don't know his name though, right? But it's so old. But anyways, back to what we're talking about here. Connections. Both were accused of a crime that they did commit, and so were sent to a special prison that housed several people with supernatural powers. Said jail is also really corrupt. They have a similarly long range powers. They can directly manifest that come from their bodies. Jolene's whole strengthening and Ganta's blood manipulation. Though they also have a risk to harm themselves simultaneously if overused, albeit Ganta got over it. Also, their parents relate to the object that they gave them, their powers. JoJo giving Jolene the stand arrow, and Ganta's mother created the crystal that gave him his power. As for this matchup, just a dope matchup. Seems pretty good. Good connections. Definitely more connections than, Jolene versus SpiderGwen. Which do I prefer? I don't really have a strong connection or relation to Ganta or Dead Man Wonderland. I probably just prefer Jolene versus SpiderGwen, if I'm being honest. Next one, Enrico Pucci versus Shiro Kotame. JoJo versus Fate. Alright, connections. Sinister ministers, bars, ironically, with a goal to achieve heaven, to attain salvation for humanity, and for everyone to be free from this fate. Both were the mastermind behind the major events in their part, Pucci sending Jolene to prison, and Shiro being the overseer of the Great Holy Grail War, which would inadvertently lead to their defeat. They have abilities that give them control over supernatural spirits, which they use as their followers / lackeys throughout the story. Whitesnake being able to remove and grant stands via the disc / Shiro being a ruler class, had commander seals over the other servants, and later having contracts with most of the servants of the Red. Both have abilities that allow them to alter their surrounding gravity. Simu makes Pucci the center of a reverse gravitational phenomenon / one of Shiro's, noble phantasm creates a pseudo black hole that swallows things around it. Both avenge their deceased masters by defeating their killers. Darnik, I'm not going to pronounce that. I'm just going to call him Darnik. Darnik killed Shiro's master in the Third Holy Grail War. Jotaro killed Dio in Stardust Crusaders. At some point, both used bladed weapons similar to prior villains in the franchise. During the Made in Heaven chapters, Pucci used knives like Dio did, / Shiro had black keys similar to Kairi's, since they were both members of the church. Thoughts on this matchup? Okay, this one's pretty just face value. Like, the only reason why I like this matchup so much, well, the connections are good. I'm not gonna front, they are really good. But the main thing, it'd be pretty funny if yeah, I'm pretty sure, because Fate's pretty OP. I know the verses are super OP, so I don't think Pucci stands a chance, which is why I'm saying it'd be hilarious if Pucci literally lost to Fate. Come on, that's hilarious. He lost to Fate in part 6. Now he's gonna lose to Fate again. That's my only reason why I'm liking this so much. Alright, next one. This one's not too much to go off of, right? It's Johnny Joestar versus Vash. JoJo versus Trigun. Now, I like this matchup. I don't think it's the best, obviously. These characters don't really have connections. Literally, they're both cowboys or whatever. Cowboy theme, western theme. Okay, gun shoot, and I think one thing personally, because I watched all of Trigun, that I can actually make a connection here is that both Part 7 and Trigun have heavy Christian themes with God, Jesus, or whatever, right? So that's another thing. But other than that, Johnny and Joestar and Vash's personalities are kind of opposites. Be a pretty fun fight to see. That just those two characters just interacting. That's pretty much just about it. Not really compelling. Now, next one is a little bit more compelling and more interesting. Is Johnny Joestar versus Carter Slade, JoJo versus Marvel. Two characters who are cowboy versions of a long lineage of characters, Ghost Riders and Joestars, who are connected to spiritual concepts such as souls and religion. Both were well versed in popular sports, boxing and horse riding, which had gotten them into life-threatening situations. Slade tried to protect settlers, Johnny was shot in the spine, and upon recovery they were spiraled into their story. Both have odd abilities that are tied to the idea of fate. Slade was destined to be the Phantom Rider. Fate was all over JoJo. And fight for what is right, I guess. I don't know. But both ride horses that were deemed untameable. So, I like this matchup. Now, for scaling for Carter Slade, surprisingly, I don't think I've seen any scale on this man. So I don't know who wins this. Carter Slade probably does win this. They probably got some crazy stuff on him. Especially if he does scale to the Ghost Riders, then I don't know. There's not much Johnny can really do. But if he somehow comes out with a W, for realsos, then that'd be pretty dope. JoJo winning against Marvel? What is this, right? So that'd be pretty dope. Definitely more compelling fight than Johnny Joestar versus Vash, right? Next one, Gyro versus Kamina. JoJo versus Gurren Lagann. Woo! Alright, connections. Idealistic and badass mentors to wimpy protagonists and fight using weaponized rotations, and gave one last piece of recurring advice to their ally that would inspire them to achieve infinite rotational power before their death. This fight is based. This needs to happen. This is the Gyro matchup of all time. Bro, screw Gyro versus Gojo. I don't even why you want Gyro versus Gojo. Well, that's so random. This is the matchup. These characters have so many connections. I could make a whole video on just the connections of these characters. I just gave a short simplified one, but there's so many things between these characters that are just so great, and it'd be so nice to see these characters interact character wise and also fight wise. But yeah, I'll stop up with the one. I'll get to the next one. All right. Funny Valentine versus Senator Armstrong. JoJo versus Metal Gear. Now, connections. Two American politicians that believe strongly in the American principles and making it a great country, but use trickery and manipulation to further their goals of making America great. They were also so powerful that the only thing that was able to kill them was a ridiculously busted weapon that broke their strength. Raiden's HF blade cut through the nanomachines, and Johnny Joestar's golden ratio counter D4C love train. As for the fight, come on. This fight's also based too. Also, I've seen this was like Deathbat was looking at this. They're like, oh, okay, I see. I like the connections. Also, Lil Jesus, right? D4C love train. Oh yeah, and also keep in mind, right, for the Gyro versus Kamen one, I didn't get to say who wins, but Gyro should win that matchup. He should be faster than Kamen, because Kamen doesn't get the good shit like after the time. He doesn't get the after time skip scaling, right? But yeah, Gyro should like win that. Ball Breaker should like annihilate. But anyways, for this matchup of Funny Valentine versus Sen Armstrong, who wins? I've already made a video on this topic in specific. So essentially, it's like, okay, if it's just D4C, like Funny Valentine D4C, he should just lose. I mean, there's not much he can really do. Not in the sense of like, oh, like his hacks won't work. His hacks will work. It's just that Senator Armstrong's too fast and too strong, and this guy's just gonna there's gonna be he's gonna insta kill him or whatever, right? Punch him through the head or the heart, slash him, and let's say like Funny Valentine just gets lucky 2 or 3 times. Like Senator Armstrong's gonna notice this and he's like, okay, I'm just gonna go for the kill shot, right? Like he has no reason to monologue to like Funny Valentine. They're like opposed, like at least idea wise, right? So yeah, that's at least how I imagine the fight going. But if if Death Battle gives Funny Valentine D4C love train, well, Senator Armstrong's losing. He's getting stomped. Like there's nothing he can do. But that's just about it. Now, next fight, Josuke versus Kamen Rider Double. JoJo versus Kamen Rider. Connections. These two characters are derived from the fusion of 2 individuals, Josefumi and Kira for Yappy, and Shotaro and Philip for Kamen Rider Double, respectively. And from this fusion, it also combines the abilities of them. They both suffer from amnesia, in the case of Philip at least, and do not remember anything about their past or who they were. And with the help of friends they will meet during their journey or adventure, they discover little by little who they were. Both characters fight against an organization that distributes, creates, and smuggles a type of object. That's pretty much about it, right? I like this matchup. I think I've seen some other Josuke matchups, but I guess this one I kind of vibe with. Connections are okay. Also, I'd like to see JoJo versus Kamen Rider. It seems, I don't know, it just seems really interesting to me. JoJo versus Kamen Rider. It makes sense. Josuke, like part 8, let's go. Who wins this matchup though? Josuke or like Kamen Rider? I genuinely do not know. But Josuke gets to go beyond. I'm rooting for him. Okay, I'm rooting for him. Next fight. Toru versus Makima. JoJo versus Chainsaw Man. Now, there's a lot of connections between these characters, so I'm gonna try to speed read through this. Okay. Both are leaders of factions, the Ultron organization and the Devil Hunters, that contain members of people with special abilities that use spirits as their main attacks, devils and stands respectively. Both at times carry heavy apathetic attitudes towards normal people, devils and rock humans alike, seemingly have like no care like for who they hurt and the actions they take to reach towards their goals. The last 2 connections are both both after their reveal of their facades, right, turn out to have like the strongest abilities in their respective series and universe, which actually like embodies something, being the guys, the characters like wanted to believe they were, right? Alright, both after their reveal of, oh my god, they're the villain, right, turn out to have like one of the strongest abilities in their respective series and universe, which actually embodies something behind the guise of the character they wanted people to believe they were. Makima being the control devil, which embodies the fear of control or conquest, and Toru being the stand user of Wonder Review. Both meet like an untimely, an unfortunate demise at the hands of the protagonists, using very specific abilities. They were capable of bypassing these two's own ability to stay alive, despite practically all odds saying otherwise. Now, for the full connections, I'll just link it down below in the description. Please go read the connections between this matchup. It's so good, okay? I will make a whole video on it, alright? In terms of me winning this matchup, yes, it's 100%. This is based matchup for Makima. I don't know, come on, I've seen Gojo versus Makima. I think, yeah, that should happen first. And it should, because like, bro, like we're so away from part 8 in terms of getting anime. Like, bro, come on, like just have Gojo versus Makima happen, and then later on we can hype this matchup up, and this will definitely happen. Toru versus Makima, Wonder of You, Calamity versus Control. Come on, this is gonna be so fucking dope. Now, last matchup. It's on the non-canon side of JoJo. Novel Cars versus Amazo. George Joestar versus the DC animated universe. Connections: Amazo and Novel Cars like are just, they both have the ability to be like copying perfect beings who are easily the most powerful characters in their verses. Both are stated as villains who are nearly impossible for the heroes to defeat. However, after being in space for an extended period of time, they eventually turn to the good side, doing battle with another being who had like reached a similar state to themselves, Amazo 2 in Ultimate Lifeform Dio. Despite their great powers, they also focus like heavily on philosophy rather than just battle. This is a based fight. Okay, another based fight. Okay, so just because these two is pretty obscure. Okay, George Joestar, is Death Battle ever gonna pull that out? I don't even know. Like, George Joestar isn't that popular. I know that for sure. It's not more popular than the main JoJo, but this definitely has its own fan base going on. And also, the DC Anime Universe, I'm pretty sure everyone vibes with that. Everyone would vibe with the Amazo from DC Anime Universe. Everyone like remembers like that's the cool Amazo. We don't like the one from the comics. I don't like the one from comics. I like the one from DC Anime Universe. And they even have comics like spinoffs too that are canon, right? But who wins this matchup? My opinion, it would be, at least from what I've seen from Novel Cars, from some skin from some people, right? Because I haven't read the George Joestar stuff. But I've read some like a DC like Anime Universe stuff, right? I even watched the whole show. The more impressive skilling for Amazo comes from the comics, right? Not just like, oh my god, normal Amazo. I'm talking about the DC Anime Universe comics. He's got some busted stuff. So I probably would lean towards like Novel Cars in that scenario, in my opinion. And people thinking I forgot about Toru versus Makima, who I think will win. I think Toru would win. I wouldn't say very easily. I'd just probably say like low mid diff. But like I'll probably explain that like why later on. But it's a good fight, okay. Other than that, that's pretty much about it for this video. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe, and notifications on. Anyways, I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.